Christmas morning still smelled of cinnamon when the courtroom doors exploded open, and in marched a teen who looked determined to destroy the holiday itself. She dragged a bag of smashed ornaments across the floor and dumped them on Judge Judy's bench with a grin that dared anyone to question her. But the second Judge Judy lifted just one shard and asked a single cold question, the teen's confidence shattered. Because Judge Judy hadn't just seen the damage, she'd discovered the secret behind it, and what Judge Judy revealed next left the entire room stunned. But before we jump in, tell me, where are you watching from? And don't forget to hit that subscribe button. The cinnamon scent of Christmas had not fully faded yet. It lingered in the air like a memory no one wanted to disturb. Judge Judy sat perfectly still behind the bench, eyes fixed on the chaos spread before her. Broken ornaments lay scattered across the polished wood, shards catching the courtroom lights like tiny accusations. Red, gold, and silver fragments, once joyful, now sharp, formed a messy constellation of damage that felt louder than any argument. The teen standing in front of her did not look remorseful. Ava leaned back slightly, arms crossed, chin lifted. There was a smile on her face, but it was not warm. It was the kind of smile people wear when they think they have already won. When the bailiff finished arranging the evidence, Ava let out a soft scoff, as if the whole thing were ridiculous. "Those are just decorations," she said casually, voice dripping with indifference. "They can be replaced." Judge Judy did not respond right away. The camera would have lingered on Ava's face in that moment, the confidence, the careless shrug, the unspoken challenge. She looked less like someone accused of ruining Christmas and more like someone daring the world to punish her. Across the room stood Marianne. She did not interrupt. She did not glare. She held a small, cracked picture frame against her chest, fingers trembling just enough to give her away. Inside the frame was a faded photo of a Christmas years ago. Smiling faces, a tree glowing behind them, ornaments still whole. Marianne's eyes stayed down, as if looking at Ava directly might break something else. Judge Judy finally moved. She reached forward and picked up a single shard from the pile. It was curved, delicate, with a faint swirl of green paint still visible. She turned it slowly between her fingers, examining it the way a jeweler examines a flaw. "Do you know what this tells me?" she asked calmly. Ava shrugged. "That someone tripped. Stuff happens." Judge Judy's eyes lifted, sharp, focused, unamused. "No," she said. "It tells me this was not an accident." A murmur rippled through the gallery. Ava's smile tightened, but she laughed anyway, too quickly, too loud. "You cannot prove that," she said. "I was asleep. I woke up and everything was already broken." Judge Judy placed the shard down gently, aligning it with the others. Then she glanced toward Marianne, noticing the way her grip on the frame tightened when Ava spoke. "Who bought the gifts under that tree?" Judge Judy asked. Marianne answered softly. "We all did, as a family." Judge Judy nodded once, then she turned back to Ava. "Interesting," she said. "Because according to the photos, only one pile of gifts was untouched." Ava's shoulders stiffened. Judge Judy leaned back slightly, her voice measured, precise. "So tell me something, Ava," she said. "If this was an accident, why were only your presents spared?" The room went still, and for the first time since she walked in, Ava did not answer right away. Ava's silence lingered longer than it should have, not defiant this time, calculated. She shifted her weight, eyes darting briefly toward the gallery, then back to Judge Judy. The smile returned, thinner now, stretched like glass under pressure. "You are reaching," Ava said, scoffing softly. "I did not do anything on purpose. My aunt is just mad because Christmas did not go her way." Marianne flinched. Judge Judy noticed. "Let us rewind," Judge Judy said calmly. "Start with Christmas Eve. Tell me what happened before the ornaments broke." Ava rolled her eyes and launched forward verbally, words spilling fast, overlapping themselves. She talked about how everyone was stressed, how money was tight, how the house felt tense. She said she asked for a few things, nothing crazy, and somehow that turned into an argument. According to her, Marianne overreacted. According to her, everyone did. Marianne finally lifted her head. "That is not true," she said quietly. Her voice was not angry. It was tired. She explained that Ava had demanded gifts the family simply could not afford, a new phone, designer clothes, things far beyond what had ever been tradition in that home. When Marianne tried to explain, Ava laughed. Then she stormed off to her room, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the ornaments on the tree. Judge Judy watched Ava closely as Marianne spoke. Ava interrupted twice, both times cutting her aunt off mid-sentence, each interruption sharper than the last. "That is not what I said. You're twisting it. You always do this." Judge Judy raised a finger. "Stop," she said. The room obeyed. Marianne swallowed and continued. She described waking up Christmas morning to a trail of glitter leading down the hallway. Ornaments crushed deliberately, some stomped so hard the hooks were bent. The tree tilted, stripped bare on one side. The gifts under it, untouched, especially Ava's. The bailiff stepped forward with printed photos. Judge Judy studied them carefully. "This is not gravity," she said. "This is direction." Ava's jaw tightened. "They were old," Ava snapped. "Ugly. They should have been replaced years ago." Marianne's hands began to shake. She clutched the frame harder now, knuckles pale. "They were your grandmother's," she said. The name hung in the air. Judge Judy's eyes lifted slowly to Ava's face. There it was, the smallest hesitation. A flicker. Gone almost instantly, replaced by another shrug. "So what?" Ava said. "She is gone. They are just things." The gallery reacted, but Judge Judy did not. Instead, she leaned forward. "You say that like you believe it," Judge Judy said, "but people who believe that do not go out of their way to destroy specific objects." Ava opened her mouth to argue, then stopped. Judge Judy tapped one photograph with her pen. "Explain this," she said. "A straight path of damage, bedroom door to tree, no broken gifts, no random mess." She looked directly at Ava. "Because accidents do not choose targets." The courtroom felt brittle now, fragile, like one more word might shatter it completely. Judge Judy tilted her head slightly. "So I will ask you again," she said. "Why does the destruction end exactly at your bedroom door?" Ava exhaled sharply, as if she had been waiting for that question. Then she laughed. It was a light sound, forced and careless, the kind people use when they are cornered but refuse to show it. She spread her hands, palms up, performing confusion. "I already told you," she said. "I woke up and it was like that. Maybe someone tripped. Maybe the cat knocked something over. You are acting like I planned some big crime." Judge Judy did not react to the tone. She rarely did. Instead, she studied Ava's face the way surgeons study scans, looking past the noise, searching for structure. Ava talked fast now, stacking excuses on top of each other before any single one could be examined too closely. They were hanging low. Anyone could have brushed past them. Stuff falls. That is how gravity works. Judge Judy nodded slowly. "Gravity," she repeated. "Interesting choice of word." She gestured to the bailiff, who stepped forward with a small tablet. The screen lit up, displaying a short voicemail recording. The timestamp read, December 24th, 11:47 p.m. Judge Judy tapped the screen once. Ava's voice filled the courtroom. "I swear I'm so done with this stupid holiday. They care more about old junk than me. I should just smash the whole thing and be done with it." The recording ended. The silence afterward was not dramatic. It was uncomfortable. Ava's smile faltered. Not completely, but enough. Her eyes flicked toward Marianne, then away. "That was just me venting," Ava said quickly. "People say stuff when they are mad. It does not mean anything." Judge Judy raised an eyebrow. "People also usually vent with words," she said. "Not with their feet." Marianne stood straighter now, pain visible but contained. She spoke without raising her voice. "The ornaments were not store-bought," she said. "They were handmade, every year." Judge Judy turned to her. "By whom?" "My mother," Marianne said. "Ava's grandmother." Ava looked down. Not long, just long enough. Marianne continued, voice tightening. She explained how the grandmother had made a new ornament every Christmas, painted names, dates, little notes hidden inside the glass. The last year she was alive, she had been sick, hands unsteady, but she made one anyway, especially for Ava. Judge Judy's gaze returned to the pile of shards. "Bailiff," she said, "hand me the green one." The bailiff did. Judge Judy rotated the fragment under the light. On its inner curve, barely visible beneath the paint, were faint letters. A VA. Ava swallowed. "You still want to tell me this was random?" Judge Judy asked quietly. Ava shook her head too quickly. "I did not know that was on there." Judge Judy did not raise her voice. "I did not ask what you knew," she said. "I asked whether it was random." Ava opened her mouth, closed it, tried again. "They were ugly," she snapped suddenly. "They reminded everyone of someone who is gone. Maybe it was better they were broken." The words landed wrong. Ava seemed to realize it immediately. Judge Judy leaned forward. "People destroy what hurts them," she said, "not what they do not care about." She placed the shard back on the bench. "So here is where your story breaks, Ava," she continued. "You claim accident, but your anger has a direction, your voicemail has intent, and the damage follows a path." She paused, "which tells me you were not just angry." Ava's jaw tightened, her confidence cracking in thin lines across her face. Judge Judy's eyes did not leave her. "You were trying to say something," she said, "and I am going to find out what it was." Ava crossed her arms tighter, like folding herself into armor. But armor only works when it fits. "You are overanalyzing everything," she snapped. "They were just decorations, old ones. Honestly, they were ugly." The word slipped out sharper than she intended. The gallery reacted immediately. A few heads turned. Someone inhaled too fast. Even Ava seemed surprised by her own sentence, as if it had escaped before she could stop it. Judge Judy did not move. She waited. Silence stretched. Ava shifted again, suddenly aware of every eye on her. The confidence she had entered with no longer sat comfortably on her shoulders. "You think that makes you look honest?" Judge Judy asked calmly. "Calling something ugly that meant nothing to you," Ava scoffed. "Why are we pretending these things mattered so much? They were cheap glass. Everyone is acting like I broke something sacred." Marianne's breath hitched. "They were not cheap," she said softly. "They were the last things my mother made with her hands." Ava rolled her eyes, but her voice rose without control. "So what?" she blurted. "She was sick. She barely even knew what she was doing anymore." The words landed like a dropped plate. Ava froze. Judge Judy's gaze sharpened instantly. "Say that again," she said. Ava swallowed. Too late. The damage was done. "I did not mean," Ava started, then stopped. Her jaw clenched. "I just mean everyone keeps acting like she was perfect, like I am not allowed to be mad." Judge Judy reached toward the bag of broken ornaments for the first time. "Bring that here," she said. The bailiff placed the bag gently on the bench. Judge Judy opened it slowly, the faint sound of glass shifting echoing through the room. She removed one shard at a time, laying them out carefully, like pieces of a story waiting to be told. Marianne watched, tears pooling but unshed. Judge Judy picked up a fragment with a thin line of gold paint along its edge. "This one," she said, holding it up. "This did not just crack, it was crushed, hard." Ava looked away. Judge Judy picked up another. "And this one, stepped on more than once." Ava's breathing changed, faster, uneven. "You did not lose control," Judge Judy said. "You took your time." Ava snapped back, voice shaking now. "I was angry, okay? Everyone kept acting like she mattered more than I did." The room went still. Judge Judy did not raise her voice. "That," she said quietly, "is the first honest thing you have said today." She picked up one final shard and turned it slowly. On the inner curve, partially hidden by paint, was a folded sliver of paper trapped inside the glass. Judge Judy's eyes narrowed. She held it closer to the light. "Ava," she said, voice low and precise, "did you know there was something inside this ornament?" Ava's head snapped up. "What?" she asked. Judge Judy tilted the shard so everyone could see. "A note," she said, "hidden, protected, and addressed to someone." She looked directly at Ava. "And I am willing to bet you were never supposed to break it." Ava's face drained of color, because for the first time, she realized the thing she destroyed might have been meant for her. The courtroom felt different the moment Judge Judy reached for the shard again. Heavier, quieter, as if the noise of arguments had stepped aside for something older. She worked carefully, using the edge of a pen to loosen the thin paper trapped inside the broken ornament. The glass had protected it for years, until anger shattered the seal. Slowly, deliberately, Judge Judy unfolded the fragile note. The paper was yellowed, creased from being folded small enough to hide, but the handwriting was steady. Intentional. Ava leaned forward without realizing it. Marianne covered her mouth. Judge Judy read silently at first. Her face did not change, but something in her eyes softened, just enough for the camera to catch it. "This was written by your grandmother," Judge Judy said at last. Ava swallowed hard. Judge Judy began to read aloud, her voice calm, measured, respectful. "My sweet Ava, if you are reading this, I hope you are older now. I hope you know how deeply you were loved, even when I did not always know how to show it. You were never too much. You were never difficult. You were just loud with feelings, and I was proud of you for that. I wanted you to have something made just for you, something that would stay when I could not." Ava's jaw trembled. She clenched it, fighting the reaction, but her eyes betrayed her. Judge Judy continued. "I know there will be days you feel forgotten. Please remember this. You were always seen, even when I was quiet, even when I was tired. I love you more than words, Grandma." The room did not move. Marianne's shoulders shook silently. Ava stared at the bench, her hands balled into fists so tight her knuckles blanched. The confidence that once wrapped her like a shield was gone now, replaced by something raw and unguarded. "I did not know," Ava whispered. Judge Judy folded the note carefully and placed it flat on the bench. "No," she said. "You did not." Marianne stepped forward without thinking. "I wanted to give it to you when you were older," she said through tears. "When you were ready. I thought it would mean more then." Ava looked up at her, eyes glossy. "So you just kept it?" Ava asked. "You never thought maybe I needed it sooner?" The question was not cruel. It was wounded. Marianne faltered. "I thought I was protecting you." Judge Judy raised a hand gently, stopping the exchange before it could turn defensive. "Good intentions do not cancel consequences," she said, "and silence can hurt just as much as cruelty." Ava wiped her face quickly, angry at herself for crying. "All this time," she said quietly, "I thought no one cared enough to explain anything to me." Judge Judy leaned forward. "And instead of asking," she said, "you destroyed the proof that someone did." Ava nodded slowly. "Yes," she said, "I did." The note sat between them now, not just evidence but truth. Judge Judy's gaze sharpened again, not with anger, but with purpose. "So now we move to the real question," she said. "What were you actually trying to punish that morning? Your family? Or yourself?" Ava did not answer right away. Her eyes stayed on the note as if it might change if she stared long enough. The paper looked impossibly small now, too small to have carried that much weight, too small to have survived years of silence only to be freed by violence. "I was angry," she said finally. Her voice was quieter than before. "But not about the ornaments." Judge Judy nodded once, encouraging but unmoved. "Anger is rarely the root," she said. "It is usually the cover." Ava swallowed. She rubbed her palms against her jeans, a nervous habit she had abandoned earlier when she felt in control. Now it returned, unconscious and urgent. "After my grandma died," Ava said, "everything changed, not all at once, just slowly." She glanced at Marianne, then away. "People stopped explaining things to me. Conversations happened behind doors. I would walk into a room and it would get quiet." Marianne closed her eyes. Ava continued, words coming easier now, like a dam finally cracking. She talked about how traditions kept going, but no one talked about why they mattered anymore. How grief felt like a private club she was not allowed to join. How every reminder of her grandmother felt like proof that she had been replaced by memory. "So when Christmas came," Ava said, "it felt fake, like everyone was pretending things were normal, and I was the only one who noticed they were not." Judge Judy listened without interruption. "And when you saw the ornaments?" she asked. Ava's voice broke. "They were everywhere, her handwriting, her colors, her name on everyone else's ornament." She paused. "I thought, if I broke them, it would finally make the house feel honest." Marianne's shoulders slumped. Judge Judy spoke carefully now. "Honesty through destruction," she said. "That's a dangerous idea." "I know," Ava said quickly. "I know that now, but at the time, it felt like the only way anyone would notice how bad I was hurting." Judge Judy leaned back slightly. "Pain does not give you permission," she said, "but it does explain your behavior." Ava nodded, tears sliding down her face without resistance now. I wanted them to yell, she admitted, to be mad at me, to punish me, because at least then I would matter. The room absorbed that sentence in silence. Marianne finally spoke, voice trembling. You always mattered, she said. I just did not know how to show it without breaking myself too. Judge Judy raised a finger, not sharply but decisively. This is not a family therapy session, she said, but it is a courtroom, and in this courtroom, we deal with truth. She looked directly at Ava. You were not just angry, Judge Judy said. You were scared, scared of being forgotten, scared of being pushed aside, and scared that if you did not act out, no one would look closely enough to see you. Ava nodded. Yes, she whispered. Judge Judy's gaze did not soften, but it did deepen. And here is the part you are still avoiding, she said. Someone helped that fear grow. Ava's head lifted. What do you mean? She asked. Judge Judy folded her hands neatly. I mean, she said, fear like that usually does not come from nowhere. And I am about to show you why I do not believe it did. Ava's breath caught, because whatever she had been hiding, Judge Judy was already circling it. If pain explains bad behavior, but does not excuse it, where should justice draw the line? The lights in the courtroom dimmed just slightly, not enough to feel dramatic, just enough to focus attention. Ava straightened instinctively as the bailiff adjusted the screen. Her earlier vulnerability snapped back into something rigid, defensive. Whatever Judge Judy was about to show, Ava already sensed it was not going to help her. Judge Judy did not look at Ava when she spoke. This was submitted by a neighbor, she said evenly. A doorbell camera, time-stamped Christmas morning, early. The screen flickered to life. At first, there was nothing, just the quiet glow of a porch light, snow dusting the steps, the stillness of a holiday morning that should have been peaceful. Then, movement. Ava appeared in frame. She was bundled in a hoodie, hair pulled back hastily, shoulders hunched as if trying to make herself smaller. In her hands was the same bag now sitting empty on the judge's bench. The ornaments inside clinked softly as she stepped onto the porch. A murmur spread through the gallery. Ava's breath caught. The video continued. Ava paused at the bottom of the steps, gripping the bag tighter. She looked back toward the house, just for a moment, long enough to suggest hesitation, regret maybe, or fear. Then she turned away. Judge Judy watched the screen carefully, not just the action, but the details. The way Ava's shoulders sagged, the way she wiped her face with the sleeve of her hoodie before moving again. The camera angle shifted as Ava moved out of frame. A few seconds later, the sound of glass breaking echoed faintly from off-screen. Not wild, not chaotic, deliberate. The video ended. No one spoke. Ava stared at the blank screen, eyes wide, lips parted as if she might argue. But nothing came out. Her chest rose and fell too quickly now, breath shallow. That does not look like someone enjoying destruction, Judge Judy said quietly. Ava shook her head. I was upset, she whispered. I did not know what else to do. Marianne covered her face, tears slipping through her fingers. Judge Judy leaned forward. What I see, she said, is not entitlement. It is isolation. Ava looked at her then. Really looked, Judge Judy continued, her voice steady. You did not act out in front of people. You waited. You chose a moment when the house was quiet, when no one would stop you. Ava nodded slowly. I thought, if I ruined it, then at least everything would make sense, she said, like the inside of my head. Judge Judy's eyes narrowed, not in anger, but in concentration. People who act purely out of anger want to be seen, she said, but you hid. Ava's lower lip trembled. Judge Judy turned slightly toward the gallery. This video tells me something important, she said, and it is not about glass. She looked back at Ava. It tells me you were already convinced something bad was coming, that you were bracing for loss before it ever happened. Ava's voice cracked. Because I thought it already had. Judge Judy tilted her head. And that, she said, brings us to the question you have been avoiding. The room leaned in. Who, Judge Judy asked calmly, made you believe you were about to be discarded? Ava's mouth opened, then closed again. For the first time since the case began, She looked like a child who had been asked a question she did not know how to answer without breaking something. Her eyes dropped to the floor. "I was not guessing," she said quietly. "I did not imagine it." Judge Judy did not rush her. Ava inhaled, shaky. "Someone told me." The courtroom seemed to contract, drawing closer to the bench. "Who?" Judge Judy asked. Ava hesitated just long enough for fear to show itself. Then she spoke the name. "Linda." Marianne's head snapped up. "Linda," she repeated, disbelief sharp in her voice. "That makes no sense." Ava shook her head. "She watches me after school. She always said she was just being honest with me. She said you were tired, that you were stressed, that I was temporary." The word landed heavy. "She told me you were thinking about sending me to live with my dad," Ava continued, "that after the holidays, things were going to change, that I should not get too comfortable." Marianne's face drained of color. "I never said that," she whispered. "I never even thought." Judge Judy raised her hand gently. "Intent is not impact," she said. Ava wiped at her eyes angrily. "Linda said it would be easier if I messed up now instead of later, that if Christmas fell apart, at least I would know where I stood." The gallery murmured. Judge Judy leaned back, her expression unreadable now. "So you acted," she said, "not to destroy Christmas, but to confirm a fear." Ava nodded. "I thought if I broke everything first, it would hurt less when I got sent away." Marianne stepped forward without thinking. "I would never do that to you," she said, voice cracking. "I was barely holding myself together after my mom died. I did not see what you were hearing." Judge Judy folded her hands. "This is what happens," she said evenly, "when grief meets suggestion, when a child is given certainty where there should have been care." Ava looked small now. The arrogance was gone, the entitlement stripped away, leaving confusion and regret in its place. "I did not want to ruin anything," Ava whispered. "I just wanted it to stop pretending." Judge Judy nodded slowly. "And instead," she said, "you shattered something precious because someone convinced you it was already lost." She paused, letting the weight of that sink in. Then she added, quieter but sharper, "Which means this case is no longer just about broken ornaments." Ava looked up. Judge Judy's eyes met hers, steady and piercing. "It is about influence," she said, "and someone who knew exactly where to press." The courtroom fell silent, because everyone understood what that meant next. The name lingered in the air longer than it should have. Linda. Judge Judy did not react immediately. She rarely did when a truth first surfaced. Instead, she watched Ava carefully, noting the way her shoulders tensed, as if she had just crossed a line she could not uncross. "How long has Linda been telling you this?" Judge Judy asked calmly. Ava swallowed. "Since after my grandma's funeral," she said. "At first it was little comments like, 'Your aunt has a lot on her plate,' or 'You should be prepared in case things change.'" Marianne shook her head slowly, disbelief written across her face. "She never said a word to me. She offered to help. She acted supportive." "Manipulation often wears a friendly face," Judge Judy said. Ava nodded. "It got worse around December. Linda said I should not expect much for Christmas, that people do not invest in things they plan to give up." The gallery murmured again, this time sharper. Judge Judy leaned forward slightly. "Did she ever put that in writing?" Ava hesitated. Then she reached into her pocket, hands shaking, and pulled out her phone. "Yes," she said. "She texted me. A lot." The bailiff stepped forward to receive the phone. The screen was mirrored onto the courtroom display. The first visible message made several people inhale at once. "Don't get too attached. Your aunt won't say it, but she's already thinking long-term." Another message followed. "Better to mess things up now than be blindsided later." Marianne covered her mouth. Judge Judy's expression hardened, not toward Ava, but toward the words glowing on the screen. "These are not observations," Judge Judy said. "These are instructions." Ava nodded, tears forming again. She said if I acted out now, it would hurt less later, like ripping off a bandage. Judge Judy tilted her head slightly. "And did she tell you what would happen if you did not?" she asked. Ava's voice dropped. "She said, 'People like me always get sent away eventually.'" The sentence settled like ash. Judge Judy leaned back, folding her hands. "Fear," she said, "is a powerful accelerant. It does not create the fire, but it makes it burn faster." She looked at Ava again. You did not wake up Christmas morning intending to destroy your family, she said. You woke up believing they were already done with you. Ava nodded, silently. Judge Judy turned toward Marianne. And you, she said, were dealing with your own grief, unaware someone else was rewriting your intentions to a child who trusted them. Marianne's eyes filled. I never would have let that happen. Judge Judy's voice remained firm. Predators of influence depend on that, she said. She looked back at the screen, at the final message time-stamped Christmas Eve. Once the tree is down, everything else will fall into place. Judge Judy tapped her pen once against the bench. That, she said quietly, is the lie that lit the match. The courtroom was silent. Because whatever Linda thought she was controlling, Judge Judy was about to take it apart piece by piece. The screen stayed lit. The text messages frozen in place like evidence that could not defend itself. Judge Judy did not look away from them. These were not careless comments, she said. They were calculated. Ava stood very still now. The defiance she once wore so easily had drained away, replaced by something fragile and exposed. Seeing the words enlarged on the screen stripped them of the casual tone Linda had used when she sent them. Here, they looked exactly like what they were. Cruel, Marianne's voice trembled. She told my niece she was temporary, she said, struggling to keep composure. How does someone say that to a child? Judge Judy turned slightly toward her. They say it by convincing themselves they are being helpful, she replied, that they are preparing someone for reality. But preparation without compassion is just damage in advance, the bailiff scrolled. More messages appeared. Don't expect too much from people who didn't choose you. Families like this don't last. Ava squeezed her eyes shut. She said she was protecting me, Ava whispered. She said it was better to know the truth early. Judge Judy nodded slowly. That is how manipulation works. It disguises itself as honesty. She leaned forward, elbows resting lightly on the bench. Linda positioned herself as the only adult who would tell you the truth, Judge Judy continued, which meant she also positioned everyone else as liars. Ava's breath hitched. I trusted her. And she counted on that, Judge Judy said. Marianne shook her head in disbelief. She offered to help us after my mother passed. She said she wanted to make things easier. Judge Judy's eyes sharpened. Did she ever suggest you were overwhelmed? She asked. Marianne nodded slowly. Yes. She said maybe I had taken on too much, that Ava needed more structure. Judge Judy tapped her pen once. There it is, she said. Step 1, convince the child they are unwanted. Step 2, convince the guardian they are incapable. Ava's hands trembled at her sides. She told me I should stop trying to be good, Ava said, that people leave anyway. Judge Judy looked at her directly. And those words, she said, should never have been said to you. The judge leaned back now, letting the weight of that sentence settle. Words like these do not disappear, she continued. They echo, they shape decisions, they push people toward actions they would never choose on their own. Ava nodded, tears sliding freely now. I thought I was proving something, she said, but I was just doing what she expected. Judge Judy's gaze returned to the screen. Which raises the most important question of all, she said quietly. Why did Linda want you to fail so badly? The courtroom went still, because the answer to that question would decide who this case was truly about. Judge Judy did not answer her own question right away. She let it sit, uncomfortable, unresolved, because truth often reveals itself when silence does the work. Instead, she picked up one of the printed messages and studied the timestamp again. Christmas Eve. Late. Too late for coincidence. These messages weren't random, Judge Judy said at last. They were timed. Ava looked up, confused. Timed for what? For collapse, Judge Judy replied. She turned toward Marianne. You mentioned Ava's father earlier, she said. How involved is he? Marianne hesitated. He isn't, she said carefully. He's been in and out of her life, mostly out. We keep limited contact. Judge Judy nodded. And Linda knows him. Marianne's eyes widened. Yes, she said slowly. They went to school together. The courtroom shifted. Judge Judy leaned forward now, her voice precise, cutting through the fog. Linda didn't just whisper fear into Ava's ear, she said. She was laying groundwork. Ava frowned. For what? For leverage, Judge Judy answered. A child in crisis looks unstable. A home in chaos looks unfit. And suddenly, someone else gets to step in with solutions. Ava's breath caught. You mean, she started. Judge Judy nodded once. I mean guardianship discussions. Temporary help. Just until things calm down. Marianne shook her head, horrified. She suggested that, she said. She said maybe Ava needed a fresh start, that her father had been asking questions. Ava stared at her. My dad? Judge Judy's eyes stayed on Ava. Christmas was the pressure point, she said. The one moment where damage would look emotional instead of strategic. Ava's face drained of color as understanding settled in. She wanted me to look like the problem, Ava whispered, so she could help fix it. Yes, Judge Judy said, and to do that, she needed you to break. The words hit harder than any accusation so far. Ava's shoulders began to shake. She told me if I messed up now it would be easier later, she said. She said adults make decisions fast once things fall apart. Judge Judy's voice lowered. Because she planned for them too, she said. The courtroom was silent except for Ava's quiet sobs. Judge Judy let the moment breathe, then delivered the sentence that reframed everything. This case was never about Christmas, she said. Christmas was the tool. She looked directly at Ava. You were not an entitled teen destroying a holiday, Judge Judy continued. You were a grieving child pushed toward self-sabotage so adults could rearrange your life without your consent. Ava covered her face, overwhelmed, not with guilt now, but betrayal. Judge Judy straightened. And that, she said firmly, changes how this court sees everything that came before. The gavel did not fall. Not yet. Because the most dangerous damage in this case was never the broken glass on the floor. It was the broken trust that made it shatter. Ava's earlier confidence felt like it belonged to someone else now, a stranger she barely recognized. She stood with her shoulders slumped, eyes red and unfocused, staring at the bench where the broken ornament shard still lay arranged like a quiet accusation. The smirk that had greeted the courtroom that morning was gone, replaced by a tight, trembling stillness. I thought I was strong, Ava said softly. I thought not caring made me untouchable. Judge Judy watched her closely, not with sympathy alone, but with expectation. But really, Ava continued, her voice cracking, I was just scared, and I let someone else decide what that fear meant. The camera would have caught it then, the moment arrogance gave way to shame. Not humiliation, not punishment, something heavier, something earned. Ava turned toward Marianne. I broke them, she said. I broke something you can't replace, and I did it because I wanted to hurt before I could be hurt. Marianne stepped forward instinctively, then stopped herself. Her voice trembled when she spoke. I failed you too, she said. I thought keeping things together meant staying quiet. I didn't see how loud silence can be. Judge Judy raised a hand, not to stop them, but to steady the moment. This courtroom is not here to absolve anyone, she said, and it is not here to crucify anyone either. She leaned forward slightly. Ava, you caused real damage. Emotional and physical. That does not disappear because someone manipulated you. Ava nodded immediately. I know. Judge Judy paused, just long enough to make sure that answer mattered. But context matters, she continued, and today the context is this. You were pushed, not excused, not absolved, but pushed. Ava wiped her face with her sleeve, embarrassed now not by the tears, but by the realization of how far she had gone to avoid them. I thought being loud would protect me, she said, but it just made everything worse. Judge Judy's voice softened slightly, not in volume, but in tone. Because strength is not destruction, she said, and control is not cruelty. The gallery remained silent, absorbed. Judge Judy turned to Marianne. You lost your mother, she said, and you tried to hold a family together by sheer force of will. That is understandable, but grief does not excuse neglect. Marianne nodded, tears streaming freely now. I see that, she said. I do. Judge Judy brought her attention back to Ava. What you walked in here wearing, she said, was arrogance. What you are standing in now is accountability. Ava straightened slightly, not defensively, but deliberately. I will fix what I can, she said, and I will own what I can't. Judge Judy studied her for a long moment. This is where most cases end, she said, with blame assigned and lessons assumed. She folded her hands. But this one isn't finished yet. Ava's breath caught, because Judge Judy wasn't done weighing consequences, and whatever came next would determine whether this shame became a turning point or just another scar. The courtroom held its breath as Judge Judy's gaze shifted from Ava to the pile of broken ornaments, the shards now scattered across the bench like the remnants of a war that no one had won. Judge Judy's voice broke the stillness. Justice does not ignore context, she said, but it does not overlook consequence either. Ava flinched at the words, but they didn't sting the way they once would have. Now they were just another reminder of how far she had fallen from the place she once stood, untouchable, or so she thought. You acted out of fear, Ava, Judge Judy continued, her voice steady but firm. Not entitlement, but fear nonetheless. Fear of being unwanted, fear of being forgotten. Ava's lips trembled as she looked at her aunt. I didn't know how to say it, she whispered. I thought, if I broke everything, I would finally matter. Judge Judy nodded, acknowledging the raw truth in those words. You mattered, even if you didn't feel like it, she said, her tone softening for a moment. But that doesn't mean there are no consequences. Ava's face tightened with the weight of her actions, but she didn't look away. The ornaments were broken, not just as objects, Judge Judy said, but as symbols. Symbols of a family that had already been through enough, only to be torn apart by fear and silence. Ava looked down at the fragments on the bench, the golden paint now chipped, the delicate glass shards scattered like broken pieces of trust. I didn't think about it that way, she whispered. Judge Judy leaned forward slightly, her voice more personal now, more direct. And you weren't alone in this, Ava, she said. Your aunt was grieving too. She didn't see what was happening beneath the surface. She didn't see how your fear was leading you to destroy everything around you. Marianne closed her eyes, her grief now mixed with guilt. I didn't see it. I couldn't see it, she said quietly. Judge Judy's expression softened just slightly. Grief blinds us all, she said, but it also teaches us, if you let it. And sometimes that means stepping up to see what's been broken and figuring out how to fix it. Ava nodded slowly, a tear slipping down her cheek. I broke it, and I don't know how to fix it. Judge Judy's eyes softened a bit more. You've already started, she said, by understanding, by owning what you did. The rest will come in time, but it will take work, and it will take more than apologies. Ava looked up, eyes raw but resolute. I'll do whatever it takes. Judge Judy paused, letting the weight of her words sink in. Then we move forward, she said, sitting back in her chair, folding her hands. But know this, justice is not about punishment. It's about restoration, and that takes honesty, accountability, and, above all, time. Ava wiped her eyes, her voice steadier now. I'm ready to do the work. Judge Judy looked at both of them, Ava and Marianne, and nodded. This isn't the end, she said. This is just the beginning of something much more important, not just for you two, but for the family you are rebuilding. The room stayed quiet for a moment as the full weight of those words settled in. Because sometimes, true justice wasn't about handing down a sentence. It was about giving people the chance to rebuild and offering them the tools to make sure it didn't all fall apart again. The air in the courtroom seemed to still, as though time itself had paused to listen. Judge Judy's voice was calm, yet it carried a weight that could not be ignored. She leaned forward, her eyes locking onto Ava's with an intensity that made every word feel like a verdict in itself. Ava, she said, her voice unyielding, you've admitted the damage you've done. You've taken responsibility, and I believe you understand the depth of it now. But knowing what you've done is only part of the process. The real challenge lies ahead. Ava blinked, her hands clenched tightly at her sides, but she stood straighter, her eyes meeting Judge Judy's with a quiet resolve. What's the challenge? Ava asked, her voice still fragile but stronger than before. Judge Judy held up a hand, motioning for silence. "The challenge is what comes next," she said. "You want to make amends, but words alone don't fix what was broken. You're going to need to show that you've learned something, something that goes beyond just saying, 'I'm sorry.' You have to prove it." Ava nodded, but there was a flicker of uncertainty behind her eyes. "How do I prove that? I don't know how to fix what I did." Judge Judy didn't soften. "The first step is facing the truth. The second step is action. And the third step, Ava, is showing that you understand what was lost and are willing to restore it." Ava's brow furrowed. "Restore it? How can I restore something that's gone?" Judge Judy's gaze softened, but only slightly. "Restoration isn't about returning things to how they were. It's about creating something new from the damage. It's about rebuilding trust, mending broken bonds, and, yes, earning back what was lost." She paused, watching Ava closely. "I'm giving you a condition, Ava," Judge Judy said, her voice taking on a firmer edge. "A condition that will change you forever, not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. You will restore what you've broken, but you will do it in a way that honors the memory of what was lost." Ava's eyes widened, but she didn't interrupt. "You will repair one ornament," Judge Judy said, her tone grave but purposeful. "One ornament, not to replace what's gone, but to rebuild something that has been shattered. You'll take the pieces from these broken ornaments and you'll rebuild one, carefully, thoughtfully, with your hands and with your heart." Ava looked down at the shards scattered across the bench, the pieces that had once represented a family's tradition. It was a simple task, but it felt monumental. "You will give this ornament back to your aunt," Judge Judy continued, "not as a piece of glass, but as a symbol of your commitment to change. You'll work on it until it is whole again, not because you can ever replace what was lost, but because you have taken responsibility and you are willing to show that you understand the value of what you nearly destroyed." Ava's throat tightened as she processed the weight of the condition. She looked at Marianne, who met her gaze with tearful eyes, her hands trembling as she tried to steady herself. "I can do that," Ava said quietly. "I will do that. I'll rebuild it, but I won't stop there. I promise." Judge Judy studied her for a long moment, letting the silence stretch just enough to make the moment feel profound. "Then I believe you," Judge Judy said, finally breaking the stillness. "But remember, Ava, restoration doesn't happen overnight. You will have to work for it, and you'll have to prove every day that the apology you've offered today is more than just words." Ava nodded, her voice firm now, though the vulnerability remained. "I understand," she said, "and I'll make it right." Judge Judy stood, the gavel in her hand, but she didn't bring it down just yet. She looked at both of them, Ava and Marianne, and spoke softly, but with an authority that cut through the moment. "Restoration is a process," she said, "but it begins with a choice. Ava, you've made that choice today. Now, show everyone you're willing to keep making it." And as she raised the gavel, the courtroom seemed to hold its breath, waiting for the final word. "This case is adjourned." The gavel came down with finality. Ava knew, as the court session ended, that the work had only just begun. But for the first time in a long while, she felt something she hadn't in months: hope. The courtroom slowly began to empty, the tension in the air finally starting to dissipate. But for Ava, the weight of the day's words still lingered. The verdict was clear, but what came next wasn't. Ava looked at the broken ornaments one last time, each shard a reminder of her actions and of the healing she still had to do. The shame she had felt earlier seemed to have settled into something deeper, an understanding of what she had done and a sense of responsibility for what was now hers to rebuild. But as she looked at Marianne, she saw something unexpected. It wasn't anger or disappointment or even the sorrow she had expected. It was something gentler, something more powerful. Marianne stepped toward Ava, her voice barely above a whisper. "You don't have to fix everything right away," she said softly. "But you're going to fix something. One thing at a time." Ava nodded, the words sinking in deeper than she expected. For the first time, she felt like she could do it, like the weight of her mistakes didn't have to crush her. It could teach her. "You're not alone in this," Marianne added, placing a hand gently on her shoulder. "We'll do it together." Ava blinked back the sudden rush of emotion, and for the first time, The tears felt like they were healing rather than breaking. She turned to look at Judge Judy, who had stood and was now quietly observing the two of them, her eyes soft but focused. "You both have a long road ahead of you," Judge Judy said, her voice still carrying that authoritative tone but softened by something else: acknowledgement. "But the important thing is this: you haven't lost each other, and that is the Christmas miracle that matters." Ava's heart tightened, not with the pain of the past, but with the possibility of the future. Maybe Christmas wasn't about the perfect tree or the gifts under it. Maybe it was about understanding the brokenness and seeing the chance for something better to grow from it. She looked back at the pile of glass shards and thought about what she needed to do. "One ornament," she whispered to herself. "One ornament." Judge Judy gave a single nod. "Start there." And just like that, the room felt different. It felt quieter, yes, but not in the oppressive way it had been when Ava walked in. Now there was a quiet that felt like peace, a kind of space to heal. Ava took a deep breath, knowing her journey wasn't over. It had barely begun. But for the first time in what felt like forever, she wasn't alone. She had her aunt by her side. And in some strange way, that broken ornament was the key to something she could hold on to, something that could be rebuilt. "Let's go home," Marianne said softly, her voice full of hope. As they walked out of the courtroom together, the weight of the past still hung in the air, but it didn't feel like a burden. It felt like something that could be transformed. Ava glanced back once, as if to say goodbye to the court that had changed her. She wasn't leaving with a lesson learned. She was leaving with a beginning. Because sometimes a family isn't healed by the things that stay intact, but by the broken pieces that are slowly put back together. And this Christmas, nothing had been lost, because what was broken could always be restored. And as they left the courthouse together, Ava finally understood what Judge Judy meant. This Christmas wasn't lost after all.